this is the time where, if you're going to make it, then you have to, be the person that charges in. And
welcome to the Maryland Real Estate Influencers Podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of the local real estate market. Join us as we chat with industry experts, uncovering tips, trends, and strategies to help you navigate Maryland's real estate landscape. Get ready to elevate your real estate game. Let's dive in. Good morning, and thank you very much for reaching out and tuning in again to Maryland Real Estate Influencers Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Healy, and today we have an Anne Arundel County Realtor with us, Jim Schaecher with Keller Williams. Jim, thank you so much for offering to or allowing me to interview you for the podcast.
Sure thing.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, my pleasure. So tell the listeners who may not know about you a little bit about you and how you got into the business.
So I have, I guess, a fun little nugget about me. I've never worked for anybody as an adult. When I was in college, I was managing a little video store. And when I finished up college, I had an opportunity to buy the video store. So I did that and ended up with a couple locations and got the entrepreneurial bug. And did that for several years, and then decided to get out of managing people. And I thought real estate and the one of my best friends and mentors, I actually bought the video store from. We've worked together. I'm 49 now, and we've worked together since I was 16 years old. So we've had quite a bond.
Wow.
She was a top real estate agent at the time, and so she took me under her wing when I decided to transition out of the video store business. And I was the rookie of the year in 2002. So this will be 21 years now in the business, and it's been an adventure.
That is fabulous.
And then I guess I should continue. For the last 10 years, I've built a team that for the last 3 or 4 years has been the top team in Anne Arundel County. In terms of production. So pretty proud of that. And we've since expanded to the Gulf Coast of Florida. We have an office in Venice, Florida, which is about an hour south of Tampa on the Gulf of Mexico and Florida. So
that is wonderful. Now, what made you create a team down there?
Well, I don't like the cold anymore. And so I have a 15-year-old or 16-year-old now, sorry, who's a sophomore in high school. So when he graduates, my goal is to relocate.
Nice.
So, but obviously, I've worked really hard, and my team, everybody's worked really hard to get where we are here. So my hope was to get started down there. We're just wrapping up our 3rd year down there. It's gone really well. We've about doubled every year we've been down there. And 3 agents. And so the goal will be in a few years to kind of reverse my time. So right now I'm 20 days in Maryland, 10 days or so in Florida, and I'd like to reverse that in a few years. So that's the goal.
Now, a question: are you still a producing realtor, or are you managing the teams?
I am producing. So.
Okay. Now, do you see that stopping as you convert down to Florida and more managing the team?
That's a very interesting, especially I'm sure we're going to delve into it a little bit, but the evolving odd market that we're in right now, the analogy I use all the time, I mean, 3 or 4 times a day, I say you have to decide in this real estate market as an agent, as a lender, are you the type of person that when the building's on fire, do you run into the building or do you run away from the building? And I don't know if you know this, but 92% of agents who get their license don't renew it. So what I frame it as, are you an 8%er or a 92%er? And it's okay because lots of people, lots of people, probably rightly so, because they're the normal people, they run away from the building. Mm-hmm. But, this is the time where, if you're going to make it, then you have to, be the person that charges in. And, being doing this for 20 years, this is the 3rd time that I've been through, something like this. And, if you can survive all the things that you do that get you to succeed, work tenfold in a couple of years.
Yes.
And then the business seems really easy.
Yes.
So, and then this is an interesting statistic that Gary Keller has a book called The Shift that's basically like how to survive this. And one of the interesting nuggets is a 10% drop in business will result in 30% of the agents getting out of the business. And so, we're 25-30% in Anne Arundel County right now. So, if that were to knock 50% of the agents out of the industry, that would certainly create more opportunities. This is something else that I think kind of puts the market in perspective. NAR said the other day that through September, 85% of agents in the entire country had not sold 4 houses.
Yes.
So I was telling my agents yesterday, I said, so just to put that in perspective, if you've sold 4 houses this year, you are in the top 15% of realtors in the entire country.
Yes.
It's a kind of a staggering
amazing
number.
how many people don't know those statistics that I find on this podcast. I'm interviewing only the top 5% of agents in our state.
Sure.
But knowing that what that top 5%, how that number equates out to how much production, and then people are like, "Oh, I don't have enough production for you to talk to me." I'm like, "You do. You're in the top 5%. Here's how the number breaks down. By what NAR is telling us." So I'm right there with you, and my business coach is teaching me these, showing me these statistics too, and showing me where to gain this information from. I love it that you know that. Why do you think, if I may ask, that sometimes that agents are in that where they haven't sold more than 4 houses in that statistic that you gave? Do you think is that they don't know what to do? Do you think that they're afraid of what to do? And again, no judgment here for anybody that's listening or watching to us. I'm just wondering what your perspective may be, since you have a team, if you've seen why.
Well, this is a vulnerable moment for me, and it's an indictment of, I would say, the vast majority of team leaders out there right now. And I'll just say it. I think there are a handful, like, I'm sure when you talk to teams, there are teams that are sort of cold callers, that are more dialers and expireds, FSBOs, that sort of thing. And our business, we've always been SOI. But I always make a point. It's a big distinction. If you are dialing, you're a hunter. So, you can kill, you can eat immediately, but, in the situation we're in right now, there's not nearly as many things to kill. So the benefit of that is, if traditionally to make your goal, if you needed to call 300 people a week and you're finding that you're stuck right now, you can turn the lever up a little bit and you can say, okay, well, now I'm going to call 500 people. So the way we have created our business, I say we're farmers. That's the analogy I use. So it takes a lot longer, but it's much stickier, and it's repeatable. So year after year, you don't have to start from scratch every day. Your business builds, but you have to be patient and you have to allow it to grow. And then, just like any farmer, there's times where you have a bad harvest, and we're in a bad harvest right now. Mm-hmm. So, you have to put things in place to survive it. But the indictment, I think, is that all of us, most top producers, most rainmakers, we are all sphere of influence people. Mm-hmm. And what we became masters of low-hanging fruit. And what we did is we taught our people to be pretty good at low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
Well, now that there's no low-hanging fruit, we've gotten to be pretty good at what's left. And we haven't done a great job of teaching our folks, how to survive and how to find that harder fruit. And it really makes sense. I mean, if you think about like 2021, we had 6.5 million sales in the country, and we're on pace for 4 million this year. And if you think about how many realtors struggled in 2021, that the average realtor in the country, if you do straight numbers, if you just say this many houses sold and this many people are licensed realtors in the country, it was, it's under 4. So when that number changes, when that grows a little bit, it shifts the dynamic. But we didn't really prepare our folks for that. And now, that's what we all have to do. And a lot of people are, it's hard. And one of the things that, I think the biggest mistake that people make when they get into this business, they leave a job and they think they're going to a job and they don't realize that they just started a business.
Yes.
And they expect somebody else to tell them, and the structure or lack thereof of this job, you have to be really self-motivated. My business partner and I, it's funny, we joke all the time, but to this day, every single day when I get in the shower in the morning, I say, okay, I'm unemployed today. How am I going to eat? Where's my dinner coming from tonight? So, but that's been a mantra for 20 years. And, we 2021, we sold a house a day. So,
Oh,
yeah.
That's very good. That's wonderful. So, what are you teaching your agents on your team right now? How are you teaching them to farm and to be sticky? And at the end of we're recording this at the 20th of October, 2023. So, what are you doing to teach them how to be sticky now?
So, my thing is, number one, this is not the time to try new crazy things. It's the time to double down, uh, and do the things that actually, we did this little mastermind in the office last night for Keller Williams flagship, and I told an analogy about Navy football. I said, every Navy football player is 50 pounds lighter than the team they play, and they compete week after week. And you go, how's that? And they run the exact same play. They one run play, and the other team knows that they're going to run this one play, but they do it so well. They say, we dare you to stop it. We're only going to run this play, but we're going to do it so much better than you, because you're practicing to defend it for a week, and we've been practicing it for 30 years. So that's what I tell our folks. I said, look, whatever you're good at, if it's open houses, if it's church, if it's calling your friends, if it's getting a deal out of a deal, whatever you're doing to generate business, double down on that, and be laser focused, and really, because I'm a big believer that, there's lots of, like, I call it unicorns. Like, we all go to the conferences, right? And we see the guy that's standing up on the stage and he talks about he blocks 4 hours a day and he does this and that. And you walk out of there and you feel terrible. So yes, he did 500 transactions, but he's a unicorn. There's 3 people in the country that are doing that. So what about the rest of us? How do the rest of us function in the parameters of the real world? And so I said, look, right now, like, turn the TV off. And for most agents, if you could do a deal a month, you could pay your bills and be okay. I said, so just focus today. Like, don't tell me for 1 second that if you prospect for the next 30 days, you can't find one person who needs to buy or sell. I've been a part of 3,000 real estate transactions in my career, and not one time has anybody ever said to me, even in this environment, that the reason I'm buying or selling a house is because of the interest rates.
Okay.
So I think there's still plenty of opportunity there. So you got to find the motivated people. And then the other thing that I think we make this huge mistake, we make interest rates. We sort of set up these roadblocks and give people reasons why they can't buy.
Right.
We need to explain to them how they can buy.
Exactly.
And how it makes sense. And there's a big argument. Another little talking point I have right now. So the market is up 6% in Anne Arundel County this year, and the average sales price is $500,000. So this year, if you'd have bought a house a year ago, you're up $30,000 right now. The difference in interest rates in that year, you're probably paying $1,000 more a month. So that's $12,000. So even in this environment, if you bought a house a year ago, you're $18,000 to the good.
Exactly. I try to explain that to people when they're making contracts and they want to bid over. Oh, I don't want to go over asking price. It's what's happening in 2008. It's going to happen again. I'm like, whoa. Right. Let's talk about 2008 and explain what happened back then. And it was not a supply and demand market. Now we're in a supply and demand market. We have new housing formations, families that are starting, and they're displaced at this very moment. They're living with other family members because they can't find housing. That's not the problem we had in 2008. It's completely different. We have people and not enough inventory. It's completely different. If we look at the values are going to go up between minimally 3 to 5%, depending, at least here in Maryland, depending upon the area. and Anne Arundel County and what's going on in our county, because I'm in that county too, a little bit different. It's increasing a little bit better, which is even great. But if we just look and say that this home that you're going to buy is going to be worth this, and let's do it on 3%, just to be on the cautious side. If we're looking, say it's going to be worth this in the next 12 months, are you willing to use those funds, those funds that are going to come in the next 12 months? Are you going to use that to pay the difference? That's not what happened in 2008. So it's about, like you said, having those conversations and knowing what these conversations need to be, and knowing the statistics of what's going on, what's been going on, what's going on now, and where the future. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with interest rates, but we can see where appreciation is going pretty consistently.
Right. And there's no, again, I don't profess for a second to be the smartest prognosticator for this, but there's nothing on the horizon that's going to change the inventory problem that we have. And that's the key to all of it. So, yep. If the market, and we have a little radio show, and my co-host, he put this really well because he said, well, how do you explain this market? Because it's sort of, I mean, there's a lot of people getting out of the business and a lot of weird things happening, and the units are down so much, but prices are going up. It just doesn't, it's incongruent with how we typically think. And he explained it in a really concise way, I thought. He said, so in 2021, we had 120 buyers for 100 houses. So that's the tension that you have. You've got a supply and demand situation. Now we have 60 buyers for 50 houses. So the stress, the tension is the same, but the volume, the opportunities are far smaller.
Yeah.
So even though we have a lot fewer buyers who are participating in this market, the sellers are also caught in this logjam. And so, so for anybody, I mean, again, you don't have to be real smart to think that in a year, whenever the rates do start to come down, that all of these people that haven't found a house, and rents are just as bad. The rental market is just as tight, and the prices are just as high. So that's not the answer right now. And people tend to forget that a big portion of your mortgage payment is rent. Because you're paying the rent no matter what. And then the other thing that I think is a great talking point for now, when rates were so low, 2.5%, 3%, you almost lost the conversation of mortgage interest deduction. Well, yes. It's a real fact now.
Oh, definitely. Oh.
I mean, if you make $150,000 a year and you got a $4,000 payment, you're getting a significant tax break at the end of the year that you weren't getting a couple of years ago.
That would be extremely.
You factor that in with the appreciation and the opportunity to refinance and not have to compete and not have to pay the crazy prices that are surely going to follow when the inventory doesn't change.
I try to explain that to people. I said, when the market opens up and the rates do come down, it's going to flood. And then people are going to be wanting to refinance. People have been in this process the last 2 years that the rates have been higher. And then you have the regular old people that are still looking these, I think it was 8 million new households that have formed that are living with other family members. Yeah. They're going to be flooding the market. The values are still going to be increasing because it's still a shortage. It is just I don't say that this is a very pretty time in our marketplace, but knowing that it's coming and there's nothing that we can do besides try to educate people, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty when it happens. And then people are, I don't get a phone call back. I don't get this. I don't get that. Oh God, I missed this rate. It dropped, this, half a quarter or, a half a percentage rate today, and it drops right back up because it's always moving. I just get so nervous for people that when they try to time the market, I don't see it as
the best time to buy real estate is always 5 years ago.
Most definitely.
I was talking to a really smart stock guy maybe 6 months ago in an airport, and and he was talking about where things were heading, and he was puffing his chest out a little bit. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Do you know anybody that bought a house 20 years ago that regrets it? Anybody that that 20 years ago their house is upside down? No, it doesn't happen. especially here. It's interesting because I get to see two very distinct markets. In Florida, 70% of the transactions in my county are cash. And it's
Mm,
interesting because there are mega rich. There's a street 10 minutes from me. It's 7 or 8 miles long. It's on the Gulf, and every house on it for 7 miles would be the most expensive house in Anne Arundel County. So there's stretches of that, but then there's also tons of Rust Belt, uh, lots of folks that retire in Pennsylvania and Ohio, and plenty of Maryland, New Yorkers. And those are not rich people, but they lived in their house for 30, 35 years. They sold it and they made $350,000, $400,000, and they come down with that $350,000, $400,000 and they buy what they can in
hmm.
Florida. But the result is the market is not interest rate driven like it is here. Uh,
Mm.
and because you don't have appraisals and you don't have the lending process, the price has doubled since 2019 where I am.
Holy cow.
So, and now we're experiencing something similar. They have more inventory, um, but sales have slowed a little bit. And, so you said, well, that's interesting because you would think with them not being interest rate driven and really like this is the ideal, like if you were selling here and paying cash in Florida, it's the
Hmm.
ideal time to sell.
Mm.
Even if you were paying cash here, but for people that are thinking of retiring and going someplace that's maybe a little more tax friendly and warm, whatever it is, this is a great opportunity because you're still going to get a great price for your house and you don't have to become a buyer at 8%.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it's funny that it's not really translating that way. But there's a few things happening there. Number one, we had that super overheated market where it got to the point where even for the retirees it got too expensive,
Hmm.
because their houses are appreciating 3 or 4% and they're appreciating 20% in Florida. For it to double in 3 years,
Wow.
4 years, you're talking 25, 30% appreciation. So that, and then on top of that, insurance has gotten to be really, really tricky in
I've heard.
Florida with the hurricanes, and they
Hmm.
had the condo collapse a couple of years ago. It's kind of converged to make that market a little interesting. So
Yeah, I bet. I bet it is. I have a family member that lives down there, and they share what's going on in their
mhm.
market. I always think it's interesting to see how the markets differ from state to state.
Yeah.
My company's headquarters is in Tennessee. They're in a buyer's market right now, not a seller's market. So, I mean, a completely different market. And
Okay.
not just a little bit, but pretty aggressively. And just to realize that in different states at different times, even sometimes in different counties, the market can be so different. I'm very intrigued by that. And you just wonder, like, is it going to be a month, a year, 6 months till it comes to the East Coast? Is it, or could
Well,
it be not related at all?
I should give him a. I guess I'm gonna have to give him a royalty because I'm going to mention him again. But my radio host, he loves to say that real estate is hyper local.
Hmm.
So you think about, uh, so in Maryland, we have so much government employment,
Hmm.
it makes for boring real estate. So nobody, we're never going to get crazy appreciation, and we don't have 10, $20 million houses because we have working rich people here. We don't have generational wealthy people that decide they're going to stay in Maryland for the most part. So you have uh, a really steady economy in general and a really steady real estate market where there's always people moving in and out, especially with when you have a election year and the change. And so there's just always, but at the same time you don't have to worry about foreclosures, because people aren't in this environment. Lots of people worried about losing their jobs. Nobody's losing their job with the government. So we have that steady.
Hmm.
The other thing that is interesting, and like, so in Florida, there's a neighborhood 5 minutes from me that is going to be 20,000 homes. I mean, that's like, I mean, it's like doubling the size of Anne Arundel County. I mean, it's crazy. It's going to
Wow.
be, but there's so much land that, in a certain degree, it scares me prices wise because Maryland, we're built.
I was going to
Everything
say,
here is
we don't have much land.
right. So that's the protection we have from values because they're not building any, they're not making any more of it. So
Right.
as you get to Florida, Texas, Arizona, these big states, then, you go 2 more miles out when you fill up and there's another dirt field, for 10 miles and you fill it up.
I wouldn't have
So
guessed there's empty land in Florida since it's so small. I would just think that it was
yeah,
taken.
exactly. Right. Yeah.
Texas is definitely a different conversation. One question is, you're welcome to plug the radio show if you would like, if you want to share
Thank
with
you.
us.
Thank you. Yep. We do a little 30-minute show on WNAV, 1430 AM, 99.9 FM at 10 a.m. on Saturday mornings, keeping it real estate. Um, it's fun. There's three of us, and we've been friends since high school, and we all work together. And so we've got great chemistry, and we all bring kind of an interesting perspective to the show and to the business, and it's good.
Thank
It's
you.
fun.
Thank you. I'll be listening tomorrow.
Thanks.
I'm
And that helps
posting.
keep me sharp on my numbers too.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I do have a question for you. With you and your team, are there any skill sets that you're working on right now during the end of 2023 as you prepare for 2024? Is there any skill sets that you all are working on at this time?
Yeah, I mean, we're really, like I said, we're being laser focused on the things that we know work. So that's like diving into your database, open houses. Open houses have always been a really effective way to meet buyers, but I think it goes deeper than that. I think, and especially in this market, open houses are great because buyers, they got better things to do. If a buyer is out on a Saturday right now with 8% interest rates, they're serious. They need to buy a house.
Mm-hmm,
So we're
mm-hmm,
having much better conversion rates at open houses than we typically have because I think it's time to be serious about it. And uh, we've been focusing on open houses and really like just making sure that we are touching our database and staying in touch and really there's times like the old sales closing, the always be closing, that's the low hanging fruit thing. When things are great and somebody calls off a sign and they ask you, how much is the house listed for? And you're busy and you don't have time to deal with it. You go, oh, it's $350,000. They go, okay, thanks, click. Well, now this is an opportunity to say, house is listed for $350,000. Is that in your budget? Or is that what you were expecting?
mm-hmm.
And that's a conversation. It's an opportunity to convert those people. So my mantra, what we've really been preaching here, again, I don't want to like. There's people out there grasping and you go on Facebook right now and there's 50 maybe 1,000 real estate help groups. You could have 50 ideas. Your head could spin in 10 minutes. And there's a time for all of that. And that when things in 2021, we tried lots of things because the coffers were full, and I thought it was a really good time to try some things out to see. So when things do get weird, you can find out what works and what doesn't work. And
Mm.
now it's not the time to experiment. It's get real lean with your budget. Watch all of your expenses. Get as much as lean, and then. But what I found, like the previous two times, you survive this, you get lean and mean, and you learn how to prospect and you learn how to protect your business in this market, then it's so easy. Like my best year was the year after my worst year, when everybody else was terrible and everybody else got out of the business. Then I started getting second chance listings, when people decided that cousin Eddie couldn't really sell the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the things that you do, like right now, like mailing. We do lots of mailings. We do lots of touches to try to get new listings, especially in areas that we've done really well in. And I remind my staff all the time. I say, you can't be disappointed. There's just literally like we have 20% so we're down 80% of the inventory that we need to have a healthy market. So it's not like there's no one out there. If there was somebody out there who was just couldn't sign up the listings fast enough, then I would say, okay, we need to figure out what that. But there's no magic pill.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to sort of adapt to the reality of what we're in right now. And so all the mailings, all the things we do, I said we're going to get really good at it, and we're gonna find the language. We're gonna play with the formula, who we're mailing to, quantities, all of that. So that if we can get a 2 or 3% response now, when the market changes and the inventory gets a little looser, and that becomes a 10% return
Hmm.
rate from the same letter. So that's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. We are just, I found a 30-day, actually, he did it, Jimmy Burgess did it. It was a 90-day unsolicited VOCMA challenge. And he increased his volume by $11 million by doing
Wow.
this 90-day. He ended up doing it 78 of the 90 days unsolicited, just to his past database. Nobody that settled in the last 24 months, just went back. And it's a little video. I'll send it to you when we get off here
Sure,
if
that'd be
Pete
great.
was interested in it at all.
Definitely.
But we were doing it and just saying, let's see what happens in 30 days. Can it fill your pipeline going into 2024 is where my head was. We know that inventory is lacking. What can we do to try to get more inventory? So I was, going on YouTube, finding some things,
Right.
and I'm like, this is wow. Why aren't more people doing this? Like, is his numbers really off? Is it not there, or is people just don't like this idea? It's not sexy and to do. So I'm like, it takes less than 15 minutes a day to do one. So I just thought I'll send it to you to see what your team thinks
Be
about
great. I
it.
appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So my other question is, I love asking this question. What is your real estate superpower? I feel like everybody has one.
I would say, as a team leader, it's creating culture.
Mm,
We have really good culture, and I'm a really uh, I can't really say this, but I'm a good. I understand people at a really high level, and I'm an effective communicator, and uh, I've worked really hard to create an environment and very, very protective of that, uh, the culture that we've created in our team. And we've ended up, we've I know a lot of teams have high turnover, and it's a revolving door. And I'm proud to say that we've avoided that for the most part. So we keep our agents for a long time, and constantly evolving a value proposition that grows with the agent, so that there's a place for them as their business grows and as their needs change. I want to make sure that we continue to be a resource for them. As an agent, I would say my superpower is, uh, I guess I'm not phased by much of anything. I sort of thrive in chaos, and my business manager is also was our listing coordinator for a long time, and he would go on appointments, and that's what he would always say. Is that he'd been in real estate. He has been in real estate for 40 years off and on, and he said, I've seen lots of agents, and we do all of the marketing, all the things, like at a much higher level than most people, but that's not really our superpower. Our superpower is, when the proverbial S hits the fan, that's the guy you want in your corner. So
absolutely,
that's
absolutely.
I think, and then I think that translates to our agents. And again, what I like to say is, like, so if the average agent has done 3 transactions a year, I would say, well, be careful when you talk to an agent who says, well, I've been in the business for 30 years. But if they've done 3 transactions, you know, do they really have a grasp on what the market that we're in now?
Very true.
And so, but as you take our group, I've been a part of 1,000 years worth of real estate transactions.
My goodness.
Yeah, so there's very little that is going to come to
Phase.
me that I haven't seen, that we haven't handled. And then our agents can operate with a certain amount of confidence that, again, if they come, like right now, one of our agents has this a contract that I haven't even really fully reviewed, but it's an odd one. It's structured funny, and it's owner financing, and paid a couple of different ways, and I've already made a list of questions that I bet the agent hasn't even thought of.
Yeah.
But I've been through it. And so there's a lot of, I mean, the agent that when he got the offer, he's like, this thing's in German to me. He's like, I don't even understand it.
Yeah.
So that's I think, the fact that I've seen a lot, uh, and I've negotiated and handled, and I try really hard. I have a really good reputation in the business, because there's a lot of agents who might get their client what they want, but it's scorched earth. And then,
Mm.
you don't want to see their name as an agent, and half the time their clients aren't happy with them. And so I try really, really hard to create a win-win. And I love it when the seller and buyer can both be in the same room. It should be a happy It should be a happy moment. And for most sellers, they have good memories in the house and they love the house and they would, as much as they want the money, they would also love to know that, that there's good energy going into the house that they raise their kids in, whatever. So
Most
I
definitely.
try really hard to create that environment and we've been, really lucky. 90% of our business, and again, we were the top team in Anne Arundel County last year, is sphere of influence and referral based. So,
I love that.
all of our agents have been taught to take really good care of their people.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing with
Thanks
the
for having me.
community. Absolutely. Now, if there's agents that are on here that would like to know more about how your team functions, the inner workings, how can they reach out to you to find out about you and your team?
Yes, I'm happy to talk to anybody. I've been very fortunate in this business, and so anytime I have an opportunity to share my knowledge and help another fellow agent out, I practice what I preach on that. So, but you can call me at 301-928-4246. That's my direct line, or shoot me an email at jimschaecher@gmail.com, JIMSCHAECHER@gmail.com.
Thank you so much for coming on today, Jim. I'm so appreciative of you. And
Appreciate the opportunity.
absolutely. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining the Maryland Real Estate Influencers podcast. We'd like to ask you 2 favors. Number 1, forward this podcast to 3 of your favorite realtor friends. They'll thank you for it, and I'll thank you for it too. Number 2, we'd love reviews. It helps get the word out.